digital conversion box. So those customers in the audience who currently have Wave can expect further communications from them.
All right. Thank you very much.
Just a reminder that the all-committee work session is next Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the police department.
Great reminder. Thank you. Any other communications?
Nope.
Okay. I'll quickly move through my business, which is not much this week. Two things really for Rick and city staff. Driving up and down Highway 99, the banners along 99 are showing their wear in terms of we've got ones that are missing, ones that are flapping and falling off. So I don't know if they maybe just all need to come down or we need to so we can get replacements or whatever.
We will check into it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Check into it.
Do what we can to keep 99 as nice as we can.
Yes.
And then the other thing is the lighted entry signs. So the signs for coming into downtown, and I know that there's one out by the Canby Adult Center. Could be just that the timers maybe need to be reset in terms of with it being darker sooner, that we need to have those come on sooner, and or just to make sure that they are indeed working and coming on. With these beautiful signs, directional signs, and it'd be nice to have them illuminated in the evening if we can.
And those are the ones along 99 as well?
Yeah, the ones along 99, and then the other one I noticed was out there by the Canby Adult Center on Ivy and 13th. Like I said, it could just be the still set for summer hours or whatnot.
I'll have Public Works take a look at it.
Great, thank you. That's really all that I have right now. I'll start with Councilor Rocha and his reports.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the library, it was Irene's first meeting, and she was very well received. Had a lot of good ideas at the library and had a real passion for her position. So I think she's going to be a great asset and a great fit for Canby. December 12th will be the Christmas tour of home, and you can get tickets at the library. And I think, Mayor, your house is going to be... I'm kidding.
Wow, that was news to me. I better get it
Paying for that one.
On Parks and Rec, there was discussion last night on the possible restructuring of the Capert boundaries, Canby Area Parks and Rec District boundaries. I believe the district's actually meeting tonight to discuss that as well. During the meeting last night, the Bike and Ped Committee person requested a bike repair station to go into the Canby Art Park that's going to be going in on the corner of Territorial and Holly. And this would include a bike repair area with some tire pumps, fix-it tools. The station would have a covered shelter that would also house message boards and information about the city. It was a good location for bicyclists coming off the ferry and coming into town. So they look for approval from the Parks and Rec Board, which they received, and now they'll go out and start looking for grants. So that was pretty kind of a cool idea that was going to go in over there. So, and that is all I have.
Councilor Rocha, can you expand a little bit? What's the boundary discussion kind of entailing with Capert and the Park and Rec District?
Rick will probably explain it better than I can, but
Okay. Yeah, the early discussion is currently the Canby Park and Rec District generally follows the Canby High School district boundaries, and our concept is that we need to really focus on the areas of service most likely to access, or those areas of residents most likely to access the services that the Parks and Rec Department or district would provide. So right now the idea is to follow the rural reserve boundaries as they outline the city of Canby plus which would be the city's urban growth boundaries and the undesignated areas within immediately adjacent to the city of Canby. And that would give us a much narrower focus than we currently have, but expanded enough so that as the city continues to grow and fill its urban growth boundaries, and then moves out into the undesignated lands, which we anticipate we will do over in years ahead, that the boundaries will already have been very well described and will encompass all of those communities, existing and potentially new, that will be accessing services through the Parks and Recreation District. We also talked in early conversations about the advantages associated with looking at a Parks and Recreation District that embraces and supports youth activities in the community, and we need significantly more discussion with it, but possibly rolls the pool activities into the district as well. Right now, the pool has its own local option tax that is very, very successful. We don't want to do anything to derail that, but at the same time, it might be a good opportunity to put everybody under that same umbrella. One of the challenges that we have to address in order for this to be successful in the long run, and my concept is, as we go forward, what we would be looking at is a local option tax, which has a rolling 5-year sunset and review by the voters. To be successful, I think it would require a partnership between the district and the city, as we both have a vested interest in the success of the district and the delivery of the respective services that each of us are desirous of providing within the district, which means we're going to have a very clear delineation of responsibilities, both funding responsibilities and administrative responsibilities. We think we can accomplish that over a longer term, and we think we have a great opportunity for success if we do a good job of showing to the public and to the community what the actual service benefits will be to those persons who access parks and recreation. Still have a long ways to go, but this is our conceptual concept from the city side, and I've had some initial conversations with Park District board members, and we think we have some conceptual support there as well. So Matilda has been tasked to work once again with the district to help work through this process.
Great, thank you. Thanks. Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the Bike Committee is going to be meeting next Tuesday at 6:30 in the development offices to come up with some more good ideas, like the bike repair station at the Art Park. The Historic Review Committee last night met with the Canby Historic Society. And this actually falls in line with something that we adopted on our Canby vision, which is to take city resources and leverage them with other organizations that we can get some value added on. So what the city's Historic Review Committee is doing, for example, is going to be working with the Historic Society, which is in possession of all this historic material, to develop some traveling exhibits that can be housed in the lobby of new civic building or even Thriftway or that sort of thing, to get more people interested in Canby's history. They're also going to be working on some other research and collections ideas. But it's the sort of thing that we all expect to happen in government, but it doesn't happen enough, where a part of government talks to somebody else that's doing something like that. And I just want to commend the committee for that work. And then tomorrow, our Main Street Manager of the Year will be convening a meeting on the General Canby Days discussion, developing decision architecture on how to approach what has now become the city's responsibility. I'll be sitting in on that. That'll be at 1:30 tomorrow. That's it.
Great.
If I could add to that real briefly on General Canby Day, that we are just assuming that the council is supportive, and we're moving forward full speed to plan, prepare, and execute the best General Canby Day we can.
I
think that's a good assumption.
Can you repeat the time and place again, Greg, for those at home?
It'll be held, yeah, in the City Hall Conference Room,
Okay.
1:30 tomorrow.
Okay, and yes, Rick, I think there's full support of the council. It's a great event, and we have, I think, how many months? 10 months, 8 months to 9 months to get this together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think starting now is probably a very prudent idea, and so I know that there's been a lot of chatter about people wanting to get involved, so I hope that people do show up and get involved and help keep this event going and make it even better. So
We actually started last week, so
You asked me for forgiveness.
just checking to make sure I didn't need to go job hunting anytime soon.
Not a chance.
no, you're good.
Yeah.
No, you still have to put up with us. Great. Thank you both. Councilor Hensing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Main Street Design Committee meeting today, and we talked about some facade improvement applications that are coming through and projects that are moving forward. But the biggest little piece of information that I acquired today was that the Arts and Culture Advisory Council is no longer an advisory committee to the Main Street Design Committee, that they're going to be integrating with the Canby Arts Association and doing their work with them. So Laura's very excited about that prospect, so I'm excited to see what comes out of that. Main Street Promotions Committee, just a reminder, Halloween is coming, and we have the trick-or-treating downtown from 3 to 6 p.m., and the Main Street Costume Parade, all the little ladies dressed up in their costumes that go through town at 4:30, and they're also going to be having the haunted house at the fairgrounds again from 4 till 8. CTV5 board meeting. There was a lot of brainstorming going on. As ideas come, I'll be able to give you more information, but they're really just trying to brainstorm ideas on more funding for their operation. They need some more operation funds. And I likewise will be going to the General Canby Day meeting tomorrow. I'm excited about that. And this is your public service announcement. Get your ballots in before November 3rd. That's all I have.
There's a lot on the ballot, too.
Yeah, take some time.
Sorry,
Making notes.
I am. Council President Dale.
Mr. Mayor, on the Canby Utility front, Canby Utility is proposing a 12.7% average increase in power rates for its customers. The vast bulk of that is due to Bonneville Power Administration's biannual rate increase, and the remainder is just the cost of doing business in terms of inflation and building their own reserves. They're having a rate hearing, if you are interested to get more details and voice your opinion, on October 27th over at Canby Utility headquarters, just this direction, at 7 p.m. And you can also email or U.S. Postal Service mail your comments into them. Just make sure they're there by 3 p.m. on October 27th. As the unofficial liaison to all things nerd, I just wanted to brag on Candy a little bit. One of the major trade publications in my field of high tech had a listing of the best cities in the United States in which to find affordable gigabit internet. And number one on the list was Cupertino, California, which is headquarters to Apple, not surprisingly. Number two was the city of San Francisco. 3 was the city of Seattle, again, very high-tech center. Number 4 was Portland, Oregon, the anchor of the Silicon Forest. And lo and behold, number 5 was Canby, Oregon.
Nice.
Not bad. Number 6 was Phoenix. So not bad placement for our little city of Canby.
Awesome.
And given that, with the mayor's indulgence, we'd like to invite Paul Howard to come up and talk to us. He is president of Canby Tel. And they have won a very significant recognition this year that he's going to brag about, and councilors received an invitation to earlier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Give me Fiber Day.
Gimme fiber.
Give me fiber. Give me that. Wait.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Council and Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to put a shameless plug in for a very significant award that Canby Telecom has been awarded. It's something that's given out only to one company, and it's once a year, and it's given out by the Fiber to the Home Council, which this particular award covers the whole North America, so it's not just the United States, it's North America. And last year, Chattanooga, Tennessee won, and the year before that, Google won. And so we feel it's a pretty big honor and, right in line with the article that you read. But anyway, what we're doing is we're putting together really a huge block party, and it's for everybody in Canby. It's from 4 to 6 on November 4th, and we'll have a lot of hands-on demonstrations, a lot of fun things for the kids, a lot of fun things for adults as well to go through and see how fiber actually works and put it into terms of something we can all understand, even me. So we're looking forward to a great turnout. Again, it's November 4th, and this award really is due to a lot of the hard work that's been done prior to me coming on board, so I'm not going to take all the credit for it. It really is prior administration that has set the course for Canby Telecom, but it's right in line with everything Canby has done over the years, too. So hope everybody can make it, and thank you very much for allowing me to say a few words.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks. So I'd like to report on some public library programming things going on this month. So it's Hispanic Heritage Month, or Spanish Heritage Month. So two things. They showed a movie on the 15th called Cantinflas. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's about the great Mexican comedy actor, and they serve tamales. So that was kind of a little festival. And then on Halloween, they're doing a Day of the Dead story time. So those are two items anyway to honor Spanish Heritage Month, which I think is good. On the next Tuesday, there's a presentation on meditation. I talked to some acquaintances, and they've been to watch this man before discuss meditation. Apparently, they even practice. They do a bit of practice there at the library, and I found it very informative, so I thought that was interesting. It's about 30 minutes. It's a short little practice. There's some travel talks coming up for adults, which are some local citizens have traveled far and wide, and they're going to present to the public on their travels. And then today, WorkSource of Clackamas County was there from about 10 to 2:30 at the library, and they gave interview, coaching, resume building, job search stuff. And I stopped in to check it out myself, and it was quite valuable. It was a great resource, and it's free. So they give them all over different public libraries in the county. Anyway, I found that very valuable, and I'm glad that Canby hosted them. That was great. School board-wise, this month's CARE Award, it's Canby Area Recognition of Excellence, went to Jamie Netter, who does a great job at the Canby High School. She's the school-to-work coordinator, so she was pleased to get that, and that was great. Manufacturing Day at the school board meeting, actually Renata was there too, and so she was there to listen to a couple of high schoolers present. So there were about, how many tours? Several tours. I think 9 local industries were toured by high school students on Manufacturing Day, which was October, I forget the date, 2nd or 4th or something. Anyway, the students felt really excited, and they were pleased, and they appreciated that our local industries hosted them and gave such great tours. So good connection between real life application of what these kids are learning in school. So I thought that was great. They ratified their teachers' contracts on October 1st after a lot of negotiation, so they're pleased to be doing with that. And lastly, they talked about the transition to Ackerman, of the Ackerman alternative school, high school kids. It's going pretty well. They're all integrated in the high school now. Socially, they're doing pretty well. Attendance is about the same, which is still kind of, it's not ideal, but that's kind of typical for that at-risk population. Academically, they're lagging a bit, but they're working very hard to get them back up to speed there. So really interesting school board meeting, I thought. Other things, I visited the Lions Club just to drop in and see what they're up to last week, and they do a lot of vision and hearing screenings. They just finished that up. They did screenings at all the elementary schools, and they use this high-tech machine that looks into the kid's eyes. And in like 20 seconds can give a read on if they need further support, if they need to be referred to an eye doctor. And in fact, my 6-year-old, darn it, needs to be referred. So I guess I'm going to be taking her to get glasses soon, yeah. But thanks for that. I appreciate that on a personal level. So they're proud of the work they do there, and it's really helpful. And then they're getting ready for their annual Christmas tree lot sales, which they sell right there on the corner. So they're planning for that. But it was fun. It was good to meet those folks. And then there was a Molalla River cleanup on Saturday, and my family and I went to that. So we went along under the 99E bridge, and we picked up bags of litter through a Solve group. And there were about 11, 13 volunteers from the community there, and it was a good opportunity. Greg has been in the past to do some cleanup too. And I'm glad her name is Amanda Shaz. She's expanding that cleanup program. I think it's a great idea. And then Tony, the executive director at CTV5, I happened to talk to him last week, and I learned that, he's open for citizens, groups, clubs to come on in and use the studio. It's this wonderful gem that's there to be used. If you have a group that you want to promote, you want to create a little video, he's happy to work with you. So I just wanted to make a public statement and say, contact him. You can email him at tony@ctvchannel5.com if you have ideas to get your group recognized on Channel 5. And lastly, we're having a free little cross-country race. I'm doing some coaching of a youth running club. It's for ages 8 through 14. Next Thursday, 5 o'clock, Ackerman. If you've never come running before and you're 8 to 14, come on out. It's fun. We're going to time you, and you'll get a little award. And it's just good exercise for kids in the community. So come on out and run with us if you want. And that's what I've got.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Coleman.
how do I follow that report? Good Lord. Well, actually, I have both of my committees did not meet since the last time we got together, so there's no planning meeting or municipal audit. But I wanted to report that a reminder this Saturday at the fairgrounds at 9 a.m. are the tryouts for the Canby Rodeo Court, and everyone is welcome. And then also wanted to let everyone know that one of our 2015 Canby Rodeo Princesses, Allison Fazzolari, Oregon City, Oregon. She tried out for the Sisters Rodeo. She was chosen as the queen. So that's pretty neat.
That's exciting.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, sir. I have one bit that I forgot to write down and bring up, and this is my annual. I think I didn't do it last year. My annual little plug for fall. There are leaves falling, if you haven't seen it. If you haven't noticed. And one of the things that we do as our city is we send the street sweepers around to make sure that the storm drains and grates are clear. They are to pick up miscellaneous debris and whatnot, but they are not to pick up your leaves. So please don't rake them into the street and expect our crew to pick them up, because then that's just wear and tear on our equipment and extra man hours to run back, dump the machine, and then go back out. So please refrain from doing that. K-Hoots in the past has been great about delivering extra yard bins if you need them. There are bags available. So just keep that in mind. I'd hate to see us have to, do a leaf ordinance or something like Portland. So I'm just asking. I'm just asking nicely right now for I think the third or fourth year in a row. So
They're your leaves, you pick them up.
are they city trees? I'm not sure. No, they are our trees.
Don't
so
start
I'm
with
not
the street treatment. That's another can of worms.
just ask that you bag them up and not let our crews do it. So that's my fall leaf announcement.
I could add something to that if
Oh,
I may.
please do.
Mr. Mayor. I have had several conversations with Public Works staff about the possibility of establishing a specific location where members of the community could dump their leaves, and we then would be responsible for composting and hauling them away. We haven't worked out the details for this year, but I think there's a good opportunity and a good potential that we'll have something for 2016. And it is specifically because it is so difficult to collect and clean up the leaves that are placed that are moved from the lawns to the gutters, and then we get the rains, and we get our stormwater system gets plugged up, and then people get upset because our streets flood. And what we're trying to do is be proactive, and we got started on this discussion a little bit too late for 2015, but it is something that we're actively talking about now, looking for an opportunity where people can gather their leaves and have a place to put them. Other than their trash bins, which are obviously sometimes too small in the fall.
My mother-in-law lives in Vancouver, and they have designated those large, almost container bins that they drop off in designated areas, and they send out, they designate certain weekends that people can then come and dump their leaves as much as they need into those bins. And so I usually get my fall workout cleaning leaves at my mother-in-law's house for a number of weekends. But I think that that's a great possible solution in those regards to that as well. So thank you for looking into that. Appreciate it. And I got out of order this evening. I forgot to ask for any citizen input and community announcements. I got so excited to get into liaison reports. If there are any citizen input or announcements on non-agenda items, we have these wonderful yellow cards. If you want to fill them out, you can do that, or raise your hand right now, since I've totally gotten off the agenda, and allow you to make an announcement. If not, if you have something that's on the agenda, please fill out a card. Make sure that our city recorder gets it back. If you want to bring that up to Kim here, our lovely city recorder, and she'll make sure that I get your card.
Thank you.
Excellent. And with that, we're back on track. All right. So we will move into the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the minutes of the October 7th, 2015 City Council work session and regular meeting, and the appointment of Jacqueline Jones to the Traffic Safety Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2017.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which include the minutes of the October 7th, 2015 City Council work session and regular meeting, and appointment of Jacqueline Jones to the Traffic Safety Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2017. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Great. Moving into resolutions and ordinances.
The first item we have is ordinance 1422. This is before you for second reading. This is adopting the North Redwood Development Concept Plan and amending Canby's comprehensive plan and Title 16 of the Canby Municipal Code.
Great. Thanks, Kim.
This is the second reading. Are there any questions? I hope not. But as you recall, we had extensive conversation and discussion and testimony about this matter last week. And the council at that time was unanimously in support of the North Redwood Development Concept Plan and the amendments to the comp plan.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll move that we adopt ordinance number 1422, an ordinance adopting the North Redwood Development Concept Plan and amending Canby's comp plan and Title 16 of the Canby Municipal Code.
Great, thank you. Second. Motion made by Councilor Height and seconded by Councilor Rocha to approve ordinance 1422, adopting the North Redwood Development Concept Plan and amending Canby's comprehensive plan, Title 16 of the Canby Municipal Code, and that's up for a roll call vote.
Councilor Rocha?
Yes.
Councilor Parker?
Yes.
Councilor Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Coleman?
Yes.
Great. Carries 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1424. This is authorizing a contract with Power Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Newport, Oregon, Auto Additions of Salem, Oregon, Daytech Inc. of Seattle, Washington, Motorola Solutions of America, MPH Industries of Owensboro, Kentucky, Hot Rod DreamWorks of Canby, Oregon, and Ford Motor Credit Corporation for the lease purchase of two 2016 Dodge Chargers with police equipment packages for the Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency.
This is a budgeted item in the 2015-16 budget. The reason that you see so many different individual service delivery companies in this is that we roll up all of the services necessary to deliver a street-worthy and ready vehicle as part of our overall lease agreement with Ford Motor Company. It is within the budget and staff recommendations for approval.
Great. Thank you, Rick.
Question, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
How many vehicles per year are typically replaced? I'm curious. Police department vehicles.
It depends. Usually you'll see a couple. Last year we did 4, as I recall, because we lost an engine in one and we had an opportunity to purchase another toward the end of the year at a real competitive price. I think, as I recall, may have been the last vehicle available in a fleet or something. I don't recall the specifics, but we put all of our vehicles on a it was 4-year, now it's a 5-year replacement plan.
Okay.
And we get good mileage out of them, and as long as we don't wreck them, then they usually do real well for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, each of the cars are on a replacement plan, and so we target like right around. It sounds really low, 100,000 miles for replacement, but 100,000 miles on a police car is like 200 on a regular car, just idle time and just the hard wear and tear that those cars take. So, in a couple of years back, the budget piece, we didn't replace the cars that following year, so we had to play some catch up there for a while. So there was a couple of years where we were replacing. We pushed the limit on what we could do with the life of some of our cars.
Yeah, and we did have conversations this last spring and summer with the chief, and looking at how our replacement schedule was working, felt that it would not be an improper decision to look at a 5-year replacement plan rather than a 4-year, as that seemed to be pretty consistently the time period that the vehicles were ready for replacement, that they hit that magical, and the mayor is absolutely dead on. We target the $100,000 mile range for, and that works pretty well. And we see that the maintenance costs go up fairly substantially once you get beyond that. And another comment the mayor made, I think, is equally apt, and that is that patrol vehicles are used very, very hard, and we don't have the smoothest roads in the city, and they do respond out into the county as necessary under a mutual aid agreement. So we put a lot of wear and tear on them.
Well, we do. I mean, I have to give kudos to our fleet team, the guys that maintain our fleet. I mean, they
Absolutely.
do a great job of
They do.
keeping those rigs together when we need it. So that helps in the life too. So thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Maybe even as a further point of understanding, the idle time as well that you mentioned, it is the case because of all the electronics in them that they keep them idling almost constantly. So it's a lot of running time as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move we adopt ordinance 1424, ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute a contract with Power Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Newport, Oregon, Auto Additions of Salem, Oregon, Daytech Incorporated of Seattle, Washington, Motorola Solutions of America, MPH Industries of Owensboro, Kentucky, Hot Rod Dreamworks of Canby, Oregon, and Ford Motor Credit Corporation for the lease purchase of 2 2016 Dodge Charges with police equipment packages for the Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Councillor Hensley and seconded by Councillor Coleman to approve ordinance 1424, authorizing contract with the Power Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Newport, Oregon, Auto Additions of Salem, Oregon, Daytech Inc. Incorporated of Seattle, Washington, Motorola Solutions of America, MPH Industries of Owensboro, Kentucky, Hot Rod DreamWorks of good old Canby, Oregon, and Ford Motor Credit Corporation for the lease purchase of two 2016 Dodge Chargers with police equipment packages for the Canby Police Department and declaring it an emergency. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1425. This is granting a non-exclusive franchise agreement to Canby Telephone Association to provide telecommunication services within the city of Canby, establishing an effective date and declaring an emergency.
And I need to fall on my sword on this item. This agreement, this franchise agreement with Canby Telephone Association actually expired on June 7th, 2015, and I missed it. And so that is the basis for the request to declare an emergency on this so that we can get it in place timely. The agreement is virtually the same agreement that was in place the previous 5 years, and the period would be retroactive to the June 7th, 2015 date, and I will draft a schedule of expiring franchise agreements to see if we can get out ahead of the next ones that come up in over the next year or two. And we have several franchise agreements, all of which expire at different times. I want to first say that in the previous agreement, there was a provision for catch-up by Canby Tel because they had stopped making franchise payments during the period of time that the franchise wasn't active. I have to give them credit here. They have not missed a payment. And notwithstanding the fact that the franchise was not formally in effect and enforced, they have continued to make payments timely. And I very much appreciate that. And also their legal team that brought this to my attention, that in fact it had expired. And so I drafted the new ordinance and the extension, and they reviewed it and have approved it. Staff recommendation is humbly to recommend approval.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Rick.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So the question of, or the non-exclusive franchise, that simply means if another telephone company came into town and wanted also to establish an agreement, we could?
Yes.
That's all that
Yeah.
means? Okay.
And we do have those.
And we do.
And we do? Broad?
Wave.
We have WAVE.
And that's it, right?
No, there's,
We have another small,
I'm forgetting the name on the spot right now.
a very small service area, but yeah.
There's I can't think.
I have one quick question. It seemed to me in discussions that we had with WAVE and with Canby Tel, we were talking about franchise agreements. We had talked about making those two come up for expiration at the same time. Did that not end up happening? Refresh my memory there.
I was not aware of those discussions.
So I'm wondering if WAVE's is also expired.
No, theirs hasn't. I did
Okay.
check that.
Okay.
And it could be that the specific agreement we were speaking of was the internet agreement, because that is the agreement under which CTV 5 lease payments are shared
Okay.
between WAVE
So that's the
and
one that
Canby
comes up
Tel.
at the same time.
That was-
And so that would be, well,
That's
that
what
would be
I'm
the one.
thinking
And
of
that,
then.
as I recall, comes up in 2017.
That's what I'm thinking of. Thank you, Rick. That's all I have.
Good catch. Councilor Parker, do you have something?
No, I just was wondering, Paul, that doesn't mean Paul doesn't get out of paying his franchise fees for the past several months. He's been paying it on his own.
already done.
Yeah.
Even though
Paid
it was
ahead.
What a good egg.
What a terrific citizen.
It would have been required had you adopted this and they not paid. We'd have had a provision, as was in the last agreement, for the catch-up. But because I was able to strike it because I went back and verified and they'd made every payment on time, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move for ordinance 1425, an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association to provide telecommunications services within the city of Canby, establishing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So a motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve ordinance 1425, granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association to provide telecommunication services within the city of Canby, establishing an effective date and declaring an emergency. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1426. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.64.020, regarding the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. At the last council meeting, the Bike and Pedestrian Committee requested that the membership be changed from 5 to 7 members. At the council's direction, staff prepared an ordinance to change the municipal code to reflect this amount.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Questions, comments?
No. Mr. Mayor, if there are no comments, I'd like to move for the adoption of ordinance 1426, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.64.020 regarding the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Parker and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance 1426, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.64.020, regarding the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1427. This is declaring a ban on marijuana businesses and other sites, referring ordinance, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
And I can speak to this a little bit. We had a workshop last meeting that covered this topic somewhat extensively, but the idea here is House Bill 3400, which passed back in June, allowed localities, cities or counties, to opt out by ordinance of having marijuana businesses and sites. But if the percentages weren't such by vote of the people for the Measure 91 vote, if they weren't over the threshold of 55% against or more, then it has to be referred to the voters. We are in a situation where if you were to pass this ordinance and opt out of having marijuana businesses in your jurisdiction, then it does get referred to the vote of the people. And so what will happen is that will require then our next meeting, if it, upon passage of second reading, we would have a resolution for you then to automatically refer it to the vote of the people. And that vote would take place in November 2016 at a general election, so that the idea is a greater portion of the population will actually vote. And that's all by design. It's one of the key provisions of House Bill 3400, where the Oregon State Legislature tried to start acting on the passage of Measure 91, making recreational marijuana legal for folks who were over 21 years of age. So, and the effect of this is to, because of the circumstances we're in, refer it to the voters, and to that effect, in the meantime, between now and November 2016, it creates a moratorium where there won't be any new allowed registered medical marijuana sites, and there won't be any new licensed recreational marijuana retailer licenses given. So that would be the effect, as well as create a moratorium. Also, an effect would be there wouldn't be any state shared revenues. The idea is the state's going to start collecting taxes on early sales of marijuana, and the city of Canby, because it would effectively disallow it during the moratorium until the voters would vote on it, wouldn't be able to share any of those state taxes that were collected on the sale of marijuana between January and November.
So can you give a time frame on those, and maybe what's the tax breakdown? I know that we had it in our work session, but just I think for...
Well, here's how Measure 91 envisioned it. So I was just looking at this. It was going to be a 17% tax on the sale of retail marijuana. And that 17% was going to be allocated, it's like 40% for the general school fund. I believe it's 15% for rehabilitation type services. Another 15%, I believe, was going to go to the Oregon State Police, and then 10% was going to be given to cities and counties. In the short run, it's a slightly heightened amount of taxation. It's 25%. But the idea is it's the same amount would be allocated to those different, partners in basically enforcing and trying to rehabilitate folks and educate folks. So that's the breakdown of where the tax money is going to go. The second piece of this, do you want me to just speak about both of these ahead of time, or do you want to just discuss this one first?
I think probably just this one first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get into the other section.
But the other one, it's an allowance for an actual locality to have its own tax structure set up.
Gotcha.
But I hope that answers your question.
It does. So,
Okay.
yeah, it was more for the audience here and then the viewing public. So if we vote tonight to put this to the voters, so basically from now, so starting January till the vote in November, we forgo any state revenue sharing that may be occurring, and that's at a tax rate of 17%, or was that
That's the 25%.
25%?
Is the kind of the
17 is after the vote.
after July.
2017.
Yeah, it's 2017, when they basically, for the first year, are going to have that 25% amount, while the OLCC has been given time to come up with its own regulations on everything from manufacturing and processing to, edibles and how it's actually going to be sold and what the, kind of all of the rules are for the retailing outfit. So in that time, they just decided that they're going to do a greater tax amount, which is 25%. And then after that, it reverts to a 17% because that's what was passed by Major 91.
And the city shares 10% of 25%, or 2.5% allocated across the state among those agencies, those cities and counties that are participating.
Any other questions for staff at all before I go to the yellow cards? No. Okay. So we have a couple of cards here of people that want to speak before we get into dialogue. And so first up, Dean, sir, you're up, sir.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Oh, sorry. Since we got a number of cards, if we can keep comments to about 3 minutes, that'd be great.
Probably only need a minute, sir.
All right.
First of all, my name is Dean Searle. I've got 2 the 9s here, the vape shop here in town, which is where we try and help people to start vaping so we can get them to help quit vaping there, which makes them effectively a non-smoker. And that's pretty much our focus, is trying to help people and trying to help the immediate community. As I've stated before, I was totally against the whole thought till I actually became educated as the properties and how they're working and what we've got for people that are actually suffering. One lady in mind right now, she lays in a bed or in a recliner all day long suffering from MS, and the medicines they have for it don't work. But what I keep hearing here, the way that it's connotated, how many of you know what opium is? Okay, have you ever taken a pain pill? Have you ever had a pain pill? Any one of you? Okay, most of those are opioids. They're made from opium. But it's no longer opium because it's made as a derivative. This is what they're doing with the medical marijuana. You don't get head high. You don't get slinging out there where you're all punch drunk or whatever else. You're actually effectively taking care of pain, trying to stave off anxiety, etc. It's not the same thing. Marijuana as a whole, as far as the recreational, I haven't made any friends because of the statements I've made here before. But as far as I'm concerned, they could go without legalizing that, period. But if you've got an alternative to the roller supposed to provide. I've got bilateral prosthesis. I know what pain pills are, and I know what you go through from them. If there's a way to have an alternative to not have that, I think that you kind of should worry about getting the medical marijuana voted in at this point and allow it, even if you have to have an extra operating cost for the people that are here to make sure that it's regulated right, that it's being handled right, that it's being dispensed right. Because you don't just sell it to somebody walking in to come off the counter. You actually get a clinician or a counselor to sit down with these people to find out if they have glaucoma, to find out if they have this, if they have tumors, if whatever, so that you can figure out what it is that's the right strain that works for that to help inhibit that or to help with pain or whatever else. And that's what I'm talking about putting together here, and I don't know what anybody else is trying to do. But medical on one end should be handled on medical, and the recreational should be handled on its own end. We don't need more dope. But this is a medical format, and it's no different than you taking a pain pill. It took me probably 18 months of research to figure that out, because I was totally against it myself. I'm old school. We don't need that. But as it turns out, they chemically strain it, they clone it, they crop it, they do it so that you don't get that head high, but you're actually taking care of things that are necessary medically. And I think that we, as a community, need it.
Okay.
So that's my statement. The other thing is, I'd like to know if the council actually read what was written today in the Canby Herald, because I think you'll find it a very interesting read. I know that I did.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
Mike Harmon.
Councilors, Mayor, Mike Harmon, live here in Canby, Oregon, and I strongly oppose the marijuana citing of shops here in Canby. First of all, you have to ask yourself the question, just because it was approved by Oregon doesn't mean it's right for Canby. Secondly, you have to ask what's right about it. Not the question what's wrong, but what's right about it. And so you have to ask, is there anything honorable? Is there anything noble? Is there anything worthy of praise about using marijuana recreationally? Secondly, I agree from an article that was written in the Canby Herald by Councilor Coleman. He talked about the downside risk of someone using marijuana. It's far greater than the gains that we might see financially. You're talking about some numbers, and it's percent of a percent. It sounds like it's deteriorating returns on the thing. Not only that, the Oregon Addiction and Mental Health Services provide a service to those who have gambling addictions. That was addressed by Councilor Coleman. He said, look at the taxes we get on and revenues we get for gambling, but it ruins a lot of lives. So much so that they have to have addiction services. The state of Oregon puts out $9 million every year. In fact, they said more than $9 million to provide those services. Let's look long-term at this. What are we going to see in addiction possibilities? Secondhand smoke. My goodness sakes alive. Here we are going to give 40% of the money to go to the schools, and then we're going to contaminate our children with secondhand smoke. And then finally, I've done my research on this, and we don't need a medical marijuana shop here in Canby. And the reason for that is if you do your research, you'll find out that you can find the derivative of marijuana is in hemp oil. And those properties that are favorable for reducing pain can be ordered online. You can have it delivered to your house. Do your research to get the right product, but that's the bottom line. We don't need any of the properties, or we don't need a site here in Canby. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Mr. Woods.
Mayor Hodgson and councilors, I am Mac Woods, actually MacArthur Woods, but I go by Mac for short. My daddy named me that after he was in the Army under General MacArthur when I was born, come home, and they give me that for first name. However, thank you. And I don't get a chance to come here too often, but I hear about all the good things that all you counselors are doing. And I heard a little bit about the meeting tonight, and I'm still working full-time, by the way, and healthy. I have never even smelled marijuana, and I certainly will never, ever smoke marijuana. My motto is, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't cuss, and I don't chew, and I don't have any tattoos, too. After being a sailor for over 20 years, common sense tells you it's a good idea not to be stupid. And the famous quote from a man you've all heard of, Forrest Gump, says, "Stupid is what stupid does." Canby don't need to do anything stupid. We have a beautiful town here, thanks to all of you, and we don't need to mess it up. And if you hear about or talk to some people from Colorado or where they've legalized marijuana and see the problems, big-time problems that's going on, it'll give you an idea of what we don't know. Particularly me, I don't know what I don't know, and I don't know anything about drugs. When I was a kid growing up and went into the Navy, you could kind of spot one of them people that smoked marijuana. They were a little bit different. In fact, back then, I'm a grandpa, by the way, they referred to them as long-haired, dope-smoking, hippie, faggot, beady-eyed homosexuals, and don't get around them because they'll ruin you. That's quotes I heard, and that was enough for me to steer clear of them. So that's my input. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, councilors, and Mayor Hodgson, vote no. Don't let that crazy people talk to you, and they throw a little bait out there about a tax incentive, but what it's going to cost to cure the people that get on marijuana, get addicted, and where does all the heroin users come from? Talk to Sheriff Craig Roberts. I have. Their biggest problems is drug addicts. I'm talking about theft. They don't work, and they deal in drugs, and they steal whatever they can, but get educated by talking to the people that's there that knows what they're doing. Thank you for letting me, for Grandpa. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Savory.
John Savory, 980 Northwest 22nd in Canby. I'm having my Cheech and Chong moment right now. Look at the card that we're talking about marijuana and says, you want to know whether I'm pro or con. Well, I'm against marijuana, but I'm for you referring this to the vote of the people, just to let you know. Unlike my good friend Mac, I have smelled marijuana, and going to the University of Oregon in 1968, I'm afraid that, unlike Bill Clinton, I did inhale. So at that time, and I can tell you that I know many people whose lives have been ruined by starting with marijuana and moving on to other drugs. And I would hate to see those sorts of things occur in the city of Canby. As much as we would all like to think that our children would not be exposed to it, we just know that that's just simply not the case. That will happen, and it would be, it's happening now. But there's no reason for the citizens of Canby, for this city council, to condone it and to encourage it by bringing marijuana dispensaries into the city, recreationally or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional prerogatives? comments, questions? Thank you all for your comments. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I guess we're looking for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 1427, an ordinance of the City of Canby, Clackamas, Oregon, declaring a ban on marijuana businesses and other sites, referring ordinance, and declaring an emergency.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley, second by Councilor Coleman, to approve ordinance 1427, declaring a ban on marijuana businesses and other sites, referring ordinance, and declaring an emergency. Discussion? No? Okay.
Well, I wanted to. It's contentious, and I wanted to say thanks for everybody for speaking out. And I think it is important that we do refer it to the voters because it is. Canby did vote it down last November, and so I agree. Let the voters speak. And I guess our ordinance will ban all processing, distributing, right? Medical, for those of you that haven't actually read the content of the ordinance, retail, so all of the above. I don't know if we should we consider making a separate ordinance for medical marijuana, or should we roll them all into one? I guess as it's written.
Well, you still have the federal ban that is part of our business license.
Right.
And so even if you excluded the medical, which I don't recommend, I think the holistic approach is the clearest approach for the voters to understand. But even if you excluded it from the vote, it still would be excluded as
It's a federal crime.
A federal crime, which is inconsistent with our business license practice policy.
So that would be a rewording and basically a policy adjustment on that piece alone.
Yeah, you'd have to, in order to authorize the sale of medical marijuana within the city of Canby, you'd have to change your policy and not recognize federal law as it relates to marijuana as a Schedule I drug.
And I would point out that we narrowly escaped that window of we wouldn't be having this discussion of referring it to the voters. We could just outright ban it. We were 54% is the average over the 3 precincts, and it was 55 is the threshold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in one precinct was 57%. So I'll tell you which one I live in. But anyway, so I'm just saying that it was narrow that we even are having this discussion to refer it. So I think that really speaks volumes to people want a voice, and so I don't have any other recommendation but to send this to the voters.
Okay. Councilor Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, one other thing I'd like to add is, this is a very desirable community, and one of the things that's appealing about it is that it's fun for walking, jogging, biking, and as this is a growing community, our police force is stretched pretty thin a lot of times. I mean, they have to deal with people that are speeding, texting, talking on phones, alcohol impaired, and I believe that while a good many people that may do this may be responsible, it poses new challenges for police in identifying the impairment. And if you look at the statistics on Colorado, for example, since they've legalized it, they've had a significant increase in their auto accidents related to marijuana. So, and then the other thing that I think is if you look at us on a little island out here, you don't have to go very far to satisfy your needs if this, in fact, is something you're wishing to pursue. So that's, I think caution is a good thing here. Businesses open to make money, and I think we need to be more concerned about the overall health of our community, desirability of our community, and so I'm very comfortable with my opinion.
And in terms, Dean, he's saying that we're not an island. There are shops. I don't know how close the nearest medical dispensary is, but I guess the patients that you see that need the help, I guess Clackamas. If they go up the road, there's some there still. So
we're having to run them right now as a shuttle, trying to get them some help.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and
Some people's answer, it doesn't matter.
You might keep in mind, this does not diminish at the state level the medical marijuana program. So it doesn't say you can't be a patient. It just says that you, in this town, we're not going to have retail sales or businesses set up that are in violation of federal law because their principal activity is to sell, process, or otherwise manufacture marijuana. Anybody after July 1 of this last year can grow, if they're over 21, can grow 4 plants on them in their property on their own. So it really doesn't eliminate marijuana from the city. It basically refers to the voters whether or not we want to sanction businesses that are wanting to sell the product. So.
Any other discussion? No. Okay. So all those in favor of passing ordinance 1427? Say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes.
Okay, the next item we have is ordinance 1428. This is imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer, referring ordinance.
Now, this is interesting because after the early start portion of the House Bill 3400's 25% taxation of all retail sales, they don't tax medical sales. There's going to be that 17% rate established after the LCC gets all of its rules in place. And allowed under House Bill 3400 is the idea that a locality can, if they have retail sales, tax themselves up to 3%, so making the overall tax be up to 20% for the sales of marijuana for recreational retail sales. This is kind of backup plan in a way, because in both instances, the provisions of House Bill 3400 required that if you're going to establish that tax, you have to also refer that out, and it has to be by general election, and it has to be opted within that 180-day period from when House Bill 3400 passed. So if we ever wanted to actually establish a 3% tax, because we're not exactly sure, A, how the voters are going to vote, and they might want dispensaries, they might change their mind. This gives you the option of then having that referred to the voters as well, the idea that then 3% of those sales could go to the city general fund. So it's just an option, basically. If dispensaries are disallowed in any respect, then for one, there won't be any here, so then there won't be anything to tax. But the tax won't exist either. It's only in the case that there is dispensaries allowed, or say the federal government, declassifies marijuana from a Schedule 1, and then the state decides to preempt all localities and demand dispensaries, then of course we would want to have at least, I think, it's up to you guys, obviously, but a 3% tax on the sales of it to go specifically to our town.
So this is something more do it now versus wait till.
Yeah, we can't wait on it is the problem. So, and it's still referred to the people, so it's up to them whether or not, if it's kind of an if-then thing. If you do want dispensaries, would you want a 3% sales tax on it, basically?
So the voters get to decide whether or not they want a 3% tax on marijuana.
Only if it's going to be sold in
If
town.
the first one passes, the second one, or if the first one doesn't pass, obviously, the second one would be the point.
Well, but it could pass.
Well, the second one could pass. They could say, yeah, we want the taxes, but we don't want the dispensaries. It could happen that way, too. You never know.
Yeah, and the effect of that is there won't be any dispensaries in town.
Right.
So then there won't be
it would be a
anything
tax
to tax, yeah.
Right.
But if subsequently the federal government changed their position. The state chose to preempt, and we did have dispensaries in, and the 3% tax was approved by the voters, and that would be in place at the time the preemption occurred, and cities were directed to allow dispensaries in town. So it's not a total loss if the 3% is approved, even though the placement of dispensaries in the community is denied. A subsequent event could cause that to become relevant to us.
Okay. Did you have a question?
I do.
Yes.
That 3%, if it were to be imposed, you said it goes into the general fund. Is it for general purpose, or does it go to law enforcement specifically?
It would be, my understanding of the way it's currently written is that it's for a general purpose, so, yeah.
And do you get to write that, Joe? The
Yes.
ordinance, or
Yeah, well, if you pass this ordinance, and then upon second reading, the resolution can either say, if you want me to quickly generate, the wording of the ballot title, the question, the explanation, the summary, and have it during that resolution, I can do that. Or we can even write to be agreed upon by such and such date, because the election really is, November of 2016. If you want a little more time to mull over the language yourselves, then we could agree that the resolution would be in place to refer to the people, and then to be continued on the exact language of all of those pieces to go in the voting pamphlet.
Gotcha.
But I have to write them, and I would love your input.
Yeah, and deferring that is, in my view, a good call, because it allows us to take a look not only at our initial thoughts and ideas about what good language would be, but to look at what some of the other jurisdictions' language looks like, and we can incorporate the best of the best. There's no harm in waiting, and the trade-off not waiting is, even though it would only be sample language, the trade-off of not waiting is that you don't have the benefit of seeing what everyone else is doing. We'd like to not remake the wheel, and we don't have to.
Rick, do we have it, kind of lumping these two pieces together here, do we have anything yet from Chief Smith or Lieutenant Tro on any numbers yet of DUI that is related to?
No,
nothing?
we don't.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Any other?
Yeah, I think I'm glad that we're talking about the language, creating the language for the ballot measure. I think we'll have to craft that very carefully, because I'm kind of worried that the voters will feel tricked and confused. It'll be really important that we're clear, because they might think, well, wait a minute, is this going to undermine my other vote? That's my fear, is that they won't really know what they're voting for, and they'll vote it down when they might be actually wanting to tax it if it actually comes into existence legally someday.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're all thinking carefully about the language.
And the idea is to be objective and create a question that the yes means yes and the no
Right.
means no, and then there is a summary of what it is, and then there's even an explanatory statement that can be longer
Right.
that really explains some of the nuances that we're talking about.
Yeah, and the explanatory statement would be where we would talk about measure whatever number has to
Yeah.
pass for this one to even
Take
be
effect,
relevant.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 1428, an ordinance of the City of Canby, Clackamas, Oregon, imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer, referring ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance 1428, imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer and referring ordinance. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0. Thank you. Moving into new business.
You want to read it, or you want me to just jump right into it?
Jump right in.
Just jump right into it. This is the request to adopt the conclusions, findings, conclusions, and final order for the North Redwood Development Concept Plan, and amend sections of the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development and Planning Ordinance. This is the nuts and bolts of what you had already approved in your earlier vote and through the discussions last week during your last council meeting.
Thank you, Rick. Any other-
And there are no changes from what you have seen.
Perfect. Thank you. So, questions or comments on the findings, or back to the North Redwood Development Concept Plan? No? We'll take a motion to accept the findings and conclusion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept the findings, conclusion, and final order of CPA 15-02 and TA 15-01 for the city of Canby.
Second.
Motion made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the findings, conclusion, and order CPA for 15-02/TA 1501. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0 as well. Great. City Administrator reports.
Yeah, just a couple things. I do want to report that I did attend the French Prairie Forum today, the North Willamette Research and Extension Center Conference Room. The subject matter was tourism this month, and thought it was very well done. Combination of Marion and Clackamas County presenters and the state of Oregon's tourism bureau as well. So it was well attended and I think very informational. I also met with County Public Works on an ongoing issue at the corner of 13th and Sequoia. That's that spot where 13th comes in, Sequoia, and the Logging Trail Road all cross in one place. We spent about a half hour. Jerry Nelzine was also in attendance. Coming out of that meeting from the city side is that next time you're out there and southbound, you'll notice that there's now a stop sign on the Logging Trail Road, which is a very active bike path, which is the limit of the city's jurisdiction. We do also have a stop sign already at Sequoia, but on 13th, both east and westbound, there is no stop sign, and it's a very awkward intersection. The county is going to look at different ways to maybe make it a little safer for bicyclists, and the greater concern seems to be left turn from 13th on to the Logging Trail Road because of the uncertainty of those motorists making a right turn onto 13th from Sequoia. Just nobody's sure what anybody else is going to do. We thought for our part we could at least inform bicyclists that there is a danger there, and by placing the stop sign there, it compels them to get off their bikes and look behind them to make sure that they're not riding out into traffic that's not immediately visual. So that is going to be an ongoing discussion, and but for now, the city has done all that we could to improve what is kind of more of an awkward situation than a dangerous situation. It's dangerous if people aren't cautious. It's simply awkward if they are. Also, I'm really happy to report, and I shared with you earlier this week, that we are closing in on a guaranteed maximum price on the library. Right now, the upper limit that we're looking at is $6,975,000. That $9 million sounded bad. $6,975,000. As you'll remember, our upper limit was $7 million. I still think we have an opportunity to reduce another $50,000 to $75,000 using some value engineering techniques and alternative methods to save further on the design plan. But we'll be meeting a week from tomorrow to begin to finalize the guaranteed maximum price. But I will tell you now that I have a very high degree of confidence that we are where we need to be, and we'll be able to deliver GMP under $7 million, which is, I shared with you, was my magic number, and kind of the, under no circumstances could I exceed that and deliver to you a project on budget. That keeps us within our total project budget of $9.4 million for the entire project, with all of the costs rolled in, which include architectural costs, engineering costs, construction management, and all the ancillary and support services, as well as the cost of the land initially. So we're in good shape, and we're going to continue to. We have to continue to monitor this because it's such a tight budget. But this does include a 4% construction contingency, about $250,000, which gives us some greater degree of comfort. So we feel like we're in a pretty good position. Would also reiterate something that Kim had mentioned earlier, and that is the committee meeting, all committee meeting on the 28th of October. We will be asking the mayor to open with a few comments, and would hope to spend 45 to 60 minutes with committee reports, and then an additional 45 to 60 minutes that will allow members of the community and committee members to enjoy water and cookies, some refreshments. The most important part of the meeting, I believe, is the opportunity for committee members to exchange information and find areas of common interest that they can begin to partnership on. So pretty excited about that possibility. And for those of you who haven't been by the site, we had this last week, we poured footings on the library site, over 170 yards of concrete, which, if you know how to measure concrete, is a lot of concrete. Next week, we are at this point scheduled to pour the stem walls for the, and so you'll start seeing sides begin to take shape. The concrete pad slab floor is scheduled for late December. As soon as, well, they're already working now, but we've got electricians, plumbers in on the rough-in under slab work already starting, and we'll continue that over the next 6 weeks in preparation to pour. Interesting side note, if you look down there, it is really quite fascinating because you have an opportunity to see how the building is supported and where important components and elements really fit in the building. Right now, you'd be able to, if you took a look at it, you'd be able to see where the elevator is going to sit, because we have we have the sub area already excavated and partial concrete poured in that as well. So they're starting to take shape. We're excited about it. We're seeing a lot of movement, and contractor, architect, and construction team are all working in lockstep. We're actually 2 days ahead of schedule.
Budget and ahead of schedule.
How did that happen?
Standing ovation.
Rick, on the 13th in Sequoia, the stop sign piece, I live over there, and my kids love it when we take the bridge over to our house versus cutting through the junior high parking lot. And I'm glad that we're doing something over there. Not that was there something occur? Was there an issue?
No, it's just been an ongoing discussion between the city and the county, and it's always been at a distance. You know, we would complain to them because it's a county road, and they would complain to us because they complain a lot, and because they don't fix a lot of things within the city limits. And so we were finally decided that we needed to meet face to face, so scheduled time to meet with the staff of the County Public Works, and had a good visit. They're looking at a number of different options to I suggested that we turn it into a three-way stop, and they're concerned simply because it's actually a good solution in some respects, but not in other respects. But I think the better approach could be a speed zone through there, so that because traffic traveling in both directions on, I'm not sure out there whether that's north, south, or east, west. But, on 13, the direction
That's
on
east-west.
13. It is kind of an unusual, awkward situation just because of the placement of the logging trail and the two stop signs, two areas that would be controlled at 13th are separated by quite a distance. So it's just a really awkward situation. There's no perfect solution except possibly the reduced speed zone.
So, comment and then another maybe suggestion. So, yes, coming off that curve off of Milano Road, it is an acceleration point until the 25-mile-an-hour speed sign starts flashing red. So then there's the screeching of brakes, and then there is acceleration out of town towards Milano Road until the curve when you hear the screeching of brakes entirely. In addition to the stop sign, maybe some other additional caution sign or something for the pedestrians and bike riders as they're approaching that. I don't know what that is. Look both ways, or just again, I think most bike riders do stop when they get there, but just as another
I think in
warning
addition to the
shot.
stop sign, we had talked about it, and I looked and noticed that I drove by it and to verify that the sign was up and there's a limit line, but as I recall, we either did or had talked about putting cross traffic doesn't stop on that, but that only addresses one direction. The more dangerous direction is eastbound on 13th turning onto the logging trail, because that turns in front of the traffic that could be making a right turn off of Sequoia. It's just a really awkward situation because you think you're in the clear because someone's at a stop. The person at the stop is looking left and right for vehicles, and they're not seeing this bicycle that's going to cut across in front of them since it's not a controlled intersection. And we had to actually stand out there for about 30 minutes and watch what was happening to get a real sense of, I would not in any way, shape, or form characterize it as a dangerous condition. It's just an intersection that a pedestrian or a bicyclist or a motorist needs to practice due diligence and caution. And the accidents happen when that doesn't occur.
Okay. Councilor Parker?
I will bring this up before the bike committee next week and see if they have a recommendation on it. I do know that the bike committee has talked about the need for some additional signage there. I ran into this a couple of weeks ago where I was riding my bike. I had paused there at the end of the logging road, and there were several cyclists who had come from out of town, and they hit that intersection. That was the first time they'd ever been to that intersection, and was wondering what they were supposed to be doing and which way they were supposed to turn. So it's a little bit, you're on this lovely path, and then suddenly you're on a county highway, and you're wondering what you're supposed to be doing.
Now, if you're on the lovely path, you'll see the stop sign. And the limit line, because we did paint in a limit line as well. So if you're on the path, if you're southbound on the logging trail, then if you follow the signs, you'll stop there, look both ways before you move out. The greater danger seems to be for those persons that are eastbound on 13 and just sweep across.
That's a Frogger type situation.
And it's a county road.
Have we figured out who put the concrete barriers there and why?
We have figured out who, we have not, and we actually had this conversation as well. We have not quite figured out the why yet. We know why the
Vortex, the house of mystery here.
The one concrete barrier that faces 13th is there to keep riders on the trail, keep them from cutting that corner and being, it's more dangerous without that. The three
You
on
need
the
2,000 pounds of concrete to discourage a rider from going someplace?
well, the alternative is to put the bollards up there, and those can be dangerous. We have those, but the three on the side that are parallel to Sequoia, those are. We had that conversation. We're looking into possibly removing those.
It looks ugly. It looks like remnants of a lost civilization, and it looks like it was put there for no particular reason. So,
I hope they're just left over from construction
That-
project.
see,
Let's put them somewhere.
Right.
That
We don't wanna hold that.
that was kind of our assessment as
all right,
well.
thank you.
But-
I'm done.
So of the four out there now, three will probably ultimately go. The fourth one that keeps riders from turning before the end of the logging trail road when it intersects 13th. That or something that is permanent barrier, maybe more attractive, but a permanent barrier needs to stay in place because that does improve this overall safety of that corner.
Yeah, if I can comment, I bike that intersection almost daily, so yeah, thank you for your attention to it. I agree, they're ugly, they look like archaeological relics, but the one thing that the barriers along Sequoia do is they help prevent cars from churning into the bike path. Yeah, it forces them to make it all the way up to 13th and churn. Yeah, when those actually were put in, I thought, oh, somebody's trying to keep the cars from turning into us bikes, but
Which
the
they
implementation was cosmetically. Yeah.
You know, and there are three, but two of the three are actually adjacent to the curbs still exist on Sequoia. For two, the third one I could kind of see, but not really, because it would take you'd actually have to turn off the pavement, which is potentially a problem when some of the larger trucks turn.
Yeah.
So
It's like you say, it's a weird intersection.
It
Who put
is.
those there?
Can I tell you later?
Executive session.
We know it's going to be the city. You just know it's going to be the city.
Just say, yes, it was the same. We'll talk about the specifics.
Well, considering how quickly this evening you've been to, go after the county, would tell me that was ours. So we'll own it and
Well, we have to own the
add it to
blocks.
the to-do list.
We did what we can on the city portion, but we have no control over the county. We've asked them to do something, and they're running it by their engineers.
Yeah, the intersection itself is actually county, isn't it?
It is.
Where Sequoia tees into 13th.
We have absolutely no
You want
jurisdiction.
to really bring up that topic?
No, I remember that one pretty
Yeah,
well.
let's not do that. So, okay. See, we can be entertaining up here, even about concrete and bike trails. Any other questions about Rick's staff report? No. Oh, yes.
I'd like to add one thing. As most of you know, I live and breathe construction. That's what I do, probably more than I like to admit sometimes. The effort that the city has done is Herculean. I can't emphasize enough, because I'm in these discussions all the time with these kinds of projects. With the Civic Center, it's unbelievable. And other cities, I'm hoping, will look at Canby to see what happened here. First off, the architects didn't think there was enough money. Contractors didn't think there was enough money, and guess what? We're under budget. It's a big deal, and all the credit goes to the city. It's a much bigger deal than he's making it out to be. It really is unbelievable, and and the head of schedule it's Herculean. I can't even tell you.
Hercules, Rick.
It's unbelievable. Well,
Just don't
still.
screw it up.
And lastly, with that, I'm feeling a little bit vindicated. I was kind of told this was on Todd. This is the budget, and anyhow, I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Mayor, Todd was right.
And that's on the record, right there.
And I want to thank him for his
In whole bold, thank you.
his his early encouragement of us on this, and also for bringing in that cute old man who gave us so much.
How's he doing?
He's doing good.
He just
He is, he's hit his stride, you know. We all have areas that we are really particularly good in. And the construction phase is where Ken really did excel. And he's doing a great job for us.
I've been on the other side of Ken's stuff, and it's not fun.
So, I'm really pleased.
Yeah, good.
Excellent.
I appreciate it.
Well, to Todd's point, and thank you, Rick. I mean, it has been a city staff. I mean, huge to get us to where we're at right now, and I know we're still have a ways to go, but this is a huge point for us. So, thank you very much for that.
Well, to get the footings in the ground before the weather was, I mean, that was our big push. And once we get the next concrete pour done, then everything else will be out of the ground until we get to the slab pour. And we're looking good. We're doing good.
Excellent. Thank you. Second opportunity this evening for citizen input. There's still a few people out here that rushing to the podium. Anyone going once?
They just came
So,
for the entertainment
all
value.
right, entertainment value. All right, action review, Kim.
You have adopted ordinance 1422. You've approved ordinance 1424, 1425, 1426, 1427, and 1428 to come up for second reading on November 4th. And you've adopted the findings, conclusion, and order for CPA 15-02, TA 15-01.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Joe, is there an executive session? Perfect. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's non-debatable. Motion made by Councilor Hensley, second by Councilor Roche to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are done. Good night, Canby. Thank you.
And an hour.